Hi, I'm Jacob Bonta, host of Growth and Beyond. After generating millions of dollars in pipeline value for various companies via fundamental marketing principles and leveraging modern technology, we made this show to interview top business leaders and highlight the ways to achieve growth for your business. If you'd like to level up your customer base and let us help you grow, email me at jacob@lowlandscollective.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Growth and Beyond. Today, I'm chatting with Christian Hyatt, co-founder and CEO of risk3sixty, an information and cyber risk management company that helps build business-first security and compliance programs. In today's episode, Christian and I discuss the role that patience plays in business success and how Christian's upbringing influenced his entrepreneurial mindset. We also explore the key factors behind risk3sixty's achievements and super important principles around all those achievements and some of the current trends in the cybersecurity industry. So without further ado, here's my conversation with the co-founder and CEO of risk3sixty, Christian Hyatt. All right. What's up, Christian? How you doing? Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, man. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Good to have you. If you don't mind, could you say what's up to the audience and share something that you believe to be the biggest myth when it comes to growing a business?
Hello, audience. So biggest myth. Oh, man. All right. So one thing I've learned during my entrepreneurial journey of the last 7 years is that there's lots of things that make you successful. But the one thing that I've kind of learned that makes me successful that I didn't know ahead of time is that this game just takes time. It's sustained discipline over time. And we're 7 years into our journey, and I feel like we just got started. And I think a lot of the headlines that you see and stuff like that, it's like the unicorns, which are out there. They do that occasionally. You know, they hit quick. They've been around for a year or two, and all of a sudden they have $1 billion valuation. But almost every founder I've talked to, man, they've been in this game for 10 plus years, you know, making incremental progress along the way. So early on, I kind of took that mindset. It's like dispel the myth that like this is going to be quick, put on the seatbelt, enjoy the ride, and like it's going to be 10 years, and I'll look back and be like, I'm getting some success. So just that patience as a founder. But that was a myth. I think I thought it would be fast. I kind of had these ideas about speed and quickness, but you know, once you're in it, it's just a long game, sustained discipline over time. So maybe that's my biggest myth that should be dispelled for other founders.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a great one. And that's one that I've heard continually sort of come up is like, once you sort of sign up for this, like, hopefully there's no going back because it could take a while, you know, and that's something that you see in the news all the time. It's like these Cinderella stories that it's just it's so, I don't want to say random, but kind of like it's you sort of hit like the lottery if that happens to you, you know what I mean?
It's newsworthy, right? It's in the news for a reason. It's rare. If it was common, it wouldn't be in the news. I think everyone, not everyone, but many people have like a little bit of an entrepreneurial bug in them where they think they want to start a business that sounds cool. And it is. There's some glamour to it, I guess. But I really don't think people should start a business unless they just can't not start a business. You know what I mean? Like it's just going to take so much time. I mean, for the first couple of years that I started a business, I was poorer than I probably would have been if I would have stayed in industry and kind of went the typical executive route. I definitely worked a lot more, stressed a lot more. It was more disruptive to my family, like pretty much a lot of downside, but it was just something I had to do. Like it was in me. I had to do it, wanted to do it. I got more fulfillment out of starting a business than anything else. It was a piece of my identity. So I just could not do it. And that sustained me, I think, for the first couple of years. And we had some success along the way, don't get me wrong. But then like the freedom, a little bit more money, the fun side of it, that stuff came probably, you know, a few years into it. And hopefully is still coming in terms of more success. But I guess I would just say if you're on the fence about starting a business, I think it's like good to do a little bit of soul searching and think through, is that the right thing for me? Do I really want to do that? Am I going to be in this for the next decade? If I don't have a big exit, I never make the news. Am I okay with that? Because you can't be in it for that. You need to be in it just because you want to help people. You want to serve the people that work for you. You want to make a difference in the marketplace, those kind of things. And that's really what will sustain you, I think.
Yeah. And you mentioned that for anyone that really wants to start a business, like they really should have that sort of driving them. You know what I mean? That they really need that bone in their body, so to speak. Can
I
you
think
walk
so.
us through? Could you walk us through your journey to becoming the co-founder and CEO of Risk3sixty, and then like what sort of things led to you having that bone developed in you? You know what I mean?
So I think so. I don't know if this is typical or not. I've heard this story from other founders, but I kind of always had a little bit of a natural entrepreneur bug in my body, and I think it probably came from family and just like seeing folks do stuff. But my dad was kind of a hustler, if you will. Like I think my dad and my grandma was the same way. Never had a full-time job. Like we were very poor. I grew up very poor. But what I saw my dad do was like always hustling in terms of like he would even though he didn't have a regular job, he would like do manual labor, or he would help on construction sites, or he would do landscaping, or he would buy and resell stuff. So the way he made a living was really entrepreneurial. He never started a business per se in that way, but he was entrepreneur in terms of how he earned income. And what that translated to was him being home a lot, having a lot of flexibility in terms of time and schedule. It also resulted in us being dirt poor, but that was okay. But I think I just kind of learned from that. That was my normal. Like that's how I saw life. And I thought it was cool, and I wanted some of that too. So I think as I grew up, I was a first generation college attendee. Went to college. Actually, in college, I was designing websites. So I started a website design business, I guess you could say, where I was making websites for like a couple fraternities, small businesses, stuff like that. And then when I graduated from University of Georgia, I had to make a decision: was I going to go take a leap and try to start a business, or was I going to go into industry? And I didn't know what to start. Like I had no clue. I didn't feel like websites were a good business. Like I just didn't know how to sell it. Like I was selling like $1,000 websites. Like there was no way I could make enough money to make that work. But I had offers from a couple really big consulting firms, and I didn't know. Looking back on it, I didn't know what a consultant was. But that sounded cool. Like I liked the idea of going into a lot of different businesses and help solve problems and stuff like that. And I knew that that would be like a path to me being able to do something else cool. So I took the job in big consulting. And at the time, cybersecurity was becoming a thing. Like it was becoming popular. So our consulting firm landed a couple cybersecurity jobs, and they needed basically a staff on it, like a cheap resource to come help out and do some consulting work. So I got on a big project doing that. And I ended up that I really liked it. I thought it was very interesting. And I started acquiring some subject matter expertise around cybersecurity. And what happened was I became the firm's cybersecurity resource because, hey, I was Christian. I was like that guy who had done a lot of cybersecurity projects. So because I was on one, I got on the next one and on the next one, on the next one. So I just kind of got an outsized amount of expertise in cybersecurity. But I knew I wanted to start a business, and I didn't care if it was a taco stand, a coffee shop, a SaaS platform. I just knew I wanted to start a business. But I had some partnership opportunities in the consulting firms, which is basically like, the top tier. You're really going to start making some money at that point. And I knew that it was kind of a now or never thing. Like if I go this partner route, I'm in it, probably going to grow like a goldfish, and like my lifestyle is going to change. I'm going to get used to the money, and it'll be harder and harder to start a business. So I chose a mentor actually said, man, you need to go get your MBA. And he was very convincing and convincing me to do that. And I went to Georgia Tech to get my MBA. And there was another guy in the classroom who's my co-founder now, who is also named Christian. And he had a name tag on his desk that said Christian sitting in the front row. And I was like, that is a very easy icebreaker. I'll go sit by another guy named Christian, and we'll meet each other. Sat next to Christian. He's a West Point grad. Turns out that he's like a business genius, but he was also there to start a business. And so was I. So I was like, everybody must be here to start a business. Like, that's just what the MBA is. Everybody's here to start a business. So we spent the next 2 years attached to the hip, man, just figuring out the business model, thinking about what we were going to do. We had a capstone project that was to pitch our company to some investors as part of the curriculum. And before the program even ended, I ended up leaving my full-time job, I had one project that was worth $30K, which was like basically enough for me to make ends meet for a little while and try to figure out the rest. So I jumped on it, and one client became two clients, became three clients, and then just started working out. And then I called Christian, who we call CW, one day. I said, "Hey man, I'm busy. What do you think? You want to do it?" And he was like, instantly, "Yeah, let's do it." Like he didn't even think twice. He was just ready to go. So then he joined, and then we launched Risk3sixty, and figured out product market fit, and hustled and did side gigs, did a lot of work I'd never want to have to do again, but we did it to make ends meet at the time. And it was sloppy, it was clunky, but you give something 7 years and it starts to work out and you build a real business around it. So that's how I got there, in short. And we're still in that journey. It's not over. The story's not over. It's like just getting started for us.
Yeah, when you decided to bring Christian on, how long into the, I guess, lifetime of the business was that?
Oh, that was super quick. So, I mean, he was already the co-founder. We were already yeah, he is the co-founder. So we were scheming. We just didn't have the work to justify like him also quitting his job quite yet. But in the background, we were already scheming on like products and services and stuff like that. So it was about 3 months in or so where I think I landed the second or third client, which I can't even tell you how I got those clients. It was just like doing everything, asking around, word of mouth. And we had just enough revenue to justify being able to pay both of our bills. And he made that jump. And then from there, we just kept doing the same thing. For about 2 years, we were scrappy, a year or two, just super scrappy, getting clients pretty much any way we could, over serving, like really, really serving, giving back to the marketplace. Everybody who worked with us was getting probably double the value they were paying for. And that resulted in just a lot of word of mouth and people saying, "Hey, give these guys a shot," and experiencing some success. That's kind of our formula today, honestly. It's like give twice the value that anyone's paying for in one way or the other. And friends tell friends. And I mean, we do a lot of marketing and traditional marketing and stuff too. But the underlying theme of our success, I think, is just outstanding quality and hiring great people to deliver that work.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm a big believer in the give twice as much as what the other person expects. It's like so crucial, I think, to basically not only bootstrapping but overall business, but bootstrapping specifically because that's what you and I have done with our both of our
Yep.
businesses. It's just and it's weird because it goes against your, I think, how you're sort of taught growing up, or the American mindset. You know what I
It
mean?
feels scary, I think. For example, like the way that we get most of our business today is that we just produce a pretty outsized amount of content for the number of people we have. We have hundreds of YouTube videos. We do a lot of free tools that we'll make available for download. We have a lot of conversations like this where we're just trying to be giving in terms of the information that we share. And it feels scary up front. For example, I've given away some of our best templates. I'm like, "This is the template. It's awesome. It's like great piece of information." And I'll give it to an executive, like a chief information security officer at a company. And they're like, "Great, this is exactly what I want. I have no time. I'd like you guys to do that." And they hire us to do it. And it's like, well, why was I afraid? Because they're not going to do it themselves. Like they want the expert. That's what they want. And it was just demonstrating competence. So that's like one of the two counterintuitive things. One, business takes forever, 10 years. Two, give stuff away, give way more away, and you'll get some value in return. So maybe those are two myths or counterintuitive things I've learned along the way.
Yeah, 100%. Were there any key moments or experiences that really shaped your leadership style and approach to running Risk3sixty?
A lot. Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I think some of it is like baking a cake where it wasn't an instant. It was like a process that evolved. But there are a few key instances. One, I'll give a shout out to Christian Hyatt, who's my business partner and co-founder. That guy has continually challenged me to be a better leader, to be a better person, to step up my game in every way. I hope I've done that for him. So in terms of striking the winning the lottery, having him as a business partner has been essential for me in the business. And then the other thing is, so two things happened in my life about the time I started a business. So I think I mentioned to you some of my background, how like part of my background was really, I guess you could say, like self-preservation. Like, we didn't have a lot of money, so everything was, it was always tight around the house. So I think growing up, that made me extremely conservative. It made me selfish in a way. Like I was just like, it was self-preservation. I was really trying to figure out how to get my house in order before I could do anything else. So that was just like, I didn't even know it existed. It was in my subconscious. And then when I started a business, and then also my daughter was being born around the same time. And so my life shifted from one of selfishness and self-preservation to one of just thinking about other people all the time, thinking about my clients, thinking about the employees that I was hiring, because that became very significant to me, thinking about my daughter, my wife, and the family I was building. And that was like a huge moment for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but just like that shift in thinking from selfishness to just serving others through everything that I do. And man, that's paid off so much in my life in terms of even success. One of those counterintuitive things, like you give up people, others, it comes back to you in return. So that shifted my whole mindset in terms of scarcity thinking, serving others, giving more than I get. And that has impacted me, because when it comes to like hiring people or treating employees well or making client decisions, I always try to think about like the long game, what's in it for them, what's the best in their best interest. And that has translated, I think, into a lot of little decisions that add up to like a good reputation for the business or myself, or people that are loyal, or people that want to be here and want to be a part of this journey that I'm on. So I think that was kind of an inflection point for me, just that service mindset.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Like hearing you talk about you said your business partner, Christian, was paramount to the success of your business, right?
Yep.
What's also interesting is I recently brought on a business partner, and his last name is White as well. That's so
Oh,
odd. That's weird.
small
But
world, man. There
it
are no
is.
coincidences.
We literally like we've been talking for months, but sort of like I asked the question last week, if you will. It sounds super cheesy and weird, but I didn't even really have to think about it. Like the value that he's bringing is insane. It's like total, because you always hear that like age old, if do they call it adage, where
Yeah.
basically if you want something done right or something, I don't even really agree with that part of the statement. Do it yourself. If you want something done, or if you want to go far, build a team. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I totally agree with that last part. Like it's totally already changed the way I'm thinking. Not only in the downright operations of the business, but like the future. Like it's a different spot that I see on the
Yeah,
map.
man.
You know what I mean?
Like in terms of like founders' journeys, there's probably some things that are easier the first time round and some things that are harder the second time around. Like if you're a serial entrepreneur. And I think one of those things that like maybe I have good judgment, but also just got lucky with this first time round is that business partner selection. Like I can totally see in another life that going wrong. Maybe choosing a good friend or even someone like I didn't know all the variables. I didn't know all the things I should consider to think about a business partner. Now my judgment told me that I would choose a good one, but it really is like getting married. In terms of like you're sharing a destiny together, and that sounds probably a little corny if you've never been through it, but like you become extremely financially intertwined. Especially when like any amount of money gets on the table. Like if you build a business that's even a few $1,000,000, you guys are sharing that, and your families are dependent on that, et cetera. So the stakes get so big so quickly that you can't be in business with someone who's dishonest or that you guys aren't willing to have mature conversations, things like that. And I don't think although I really appreciated the gravity of what I was doing when we became business partners, if I had to do it again, I would appreciate it 10 times more, because it's such a huge thing that it's hard to change. Once you make that decision, it's hard to change, just like getting married. So if you're a first time founder out there, like that's a pivotal decision to the whole journey, I think.
When you say it's hard to change, like you can't really go back on it at that point, right? Like
You
can,
it's like,
but it's
well, I mean,
hard.
you could, but you probably like each own a percentage of the business. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have to pay out the other person. You also have to hope that you didn't sour it to a certain extent where like they're gonna take the business down with them. Maybe there's client relationships on the line. There's like a lot of variables to untie that knot that would be very difficult. And hopefully everybody wants to play ball, but there could be a huge amount of people impacted by that decision going forward. So like the maturity to form the right kind of partnership, to get the legal documents right, to have hard conversations up front about each other's intention, about where you want to take this thing. Also other things like how are we going to, if we ever don't want to be business partners, how would we do that? And those are very hard conversations that are awkward in a new relationship, and also that most brand new business owners probably don't even need to know that they need to have. Um, we luckily got some really good advice along the way to have those conversations. But if I didn't, that would be really scary. And if I ever had to do another business, I would be conscious of it, make sure that I did that second time around.
So whenever you do have those potentially awkward conversations, right, with your potential business partner, do you feel like your decision regarding that potential business partner is confirmed, so to speak, like whenever the conversation goes really well? I feel like that on my end. I just wanted to get what some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think for sure. So I have that feeling about my business partner, many important relationships in my life, my team members, stuff like that. And I think one of the things that we've built culturally here at Risk3sixty is like, and it's probably a little bit natural for me too, is like being okay with a certain amount of, I would say awkwardness, but also conflict. Like there's a habit of like kind of addressing the big problems head on and just having a conversation about it. And I think that we've created an environment where people are like, they know that we're going to be cool with it. Like we're not there to set anybody up for success. We're being genuine. We're being authentic. But also that they're going to give us an authentic answer and we're going to solve the issue. So with me and CW, like we've definitely disagreed, but we have been very careful with each other. Just to be very respectful. Like there's never been a time where we had to like take words back from each other or apologize for going there. And that's something that I think I actually probably learned from marriage, because me and my wife have been together for almost 20 years. Whereas
Congrats.
like early in our relationship, being very immature, maybe you'd say something and you'd have to apologize and you'd be like, man, that's like, I wish I wouldn't have went there. Wish I wouldn't have said that. So maybe my wife taught me in future relationships, like with CW, when I was a more mature person, to like, that's a sacred relationship. Like it is a true professional relationship, which in my mind is more than a friend, because you can like make your friend mad and the consequences are pretty low. But with a business partner, you're tied together financially. You have other people's finances at stake. You have customers' finances at stake. So we've just been we've been mutually respectful of each other and careful to maintain that the whole time. And that's translated to us being able to have hard conversations and then getting that confidence that you're talking about, that, every time we have a hard conversation and we're, and it's resolved, it's like, man, I'm glad that I had such a great person and business leader as a business partner.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Regarding Risk3sixty again, how did you guys approach the initial stages of building it? And what were some of those big challenges that you guys faced?
So I'll give you a little context. So Risk3sixty, we have like kind of two sides to our business. On the one side, we're a consulting firm. So we'll come in and we'll help organizations build a cybersecurity program, and we'll help them manage it. Or we'll help them get certified. There's a bunch of security certifications, for example, like SOC 2, ISO 27001, an alphabet soup of different certification requirements. So if organizations want to pursue that, we can either help them build it, they can outsource that program to us, and we can help them get certified. So the good part about that business is it's not very capital intensive in terms of like from day one, we were basically doing consulting work. The cost of labor was our salaries, and it was a profitable endeavor as long as we continued to do consulting work. The other part of our business is a SaaS platform. So we have a SaaS platform called Phalanx GRC. It is a platform that enables all the services I just talked about. So if a company wants to build a security program, they want to manage one of their security certifications, they can do that in platform. That is a capital intense part of the business because we had to build it. We had to like invest in building that thing before we could sell it. So that was always a delicate balance for us. So we spent the first few years pretty much only offering consulting services, and we were just very disciplined about saving money and reinvesting it back into the platform along the way. And now we have this platform that we've bootstrapped. We invested into it ourselves, and we sell it as a standalone. And that kind of makes us a more complete organization where we have the professional services, but also have the SaaS platform that everybody wants. But the big challenge in the early days was having the discipline to reinvest that back into ourselves, because we chose not to take outside funding. But that was a challenge. There's like always a balance, because where do you invest your money? Do you take it home, put it in your bank account? We could have invested in other things. We chose the SaaS platform route. Again, another one of those things that me and my business partner had to be on the same page about, because if both of us just wanted to take home big paychecks, we wouldn't have done that. That was a big challenge for us, like what to build, when to build it, how to fund it. And I mean, we're still on that journey 7 years in, but that's been a pretty big challenge.
Yeah. And I mean, in retrospect, would you have approached that moment or like a slew of moments differently? And if you would, how would you have done it?
No, man, I'm very pleased that life is funny this way, it's like you never really regret the hard decision, or rarely,
Mm-hmm.
typically. And it was a hard decision along the way not to take the big paycheck or and
Yeah.
to reinvest it in this platform. It was a tough decision at that moment, but rarely in life do you look back at those moments and say, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. It seems like you never go to the gym and like kill it. And you're like, man,
Yeah.
I wish I wouldn't have went to the gym today. You're
That's
always
true.
like, I'm really happy I went. That was it sucked getting up early and going, but I'm happy I went. And I feel like we've been going to the gym for 7 years, and now we're looking back and I'm like, man, I'm glad we went to the gym. I should have went to the gym even more,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But I'm really glad we approached it the way we have. And it makes us very competitive in the marketplace. An interesting thing that's happened to our business along the way is that technology has become kind of a feature of the industry. Where
Mm-hmm.
now looking back, if we wouldn't have invested in this platform the way we had, we wouldn't have kind of the competitive advantage. We wouldn't have as much to offer clients. So we'd probably be in a very rough position if we hadn't have done that. So I'm very pleased that we did that.
How did you guys go about acquiring your first customers? Because obviously starting a company is not always rainbow and sunshines, especially from day one. You know what I mean? So how did you guys go about acquiring those first customers? And then how did you identify and target them, if you did at all? Because sometimes people don't.
So so keep in mind, I had a basically partner at a big consulting firm. So I had a Rolodex. But I didn't use one of them. And that's rare for consultants to leave. And the reason I didn't is because for me, there was some gray area as to if it would have been ethically okay for me to do that. Would have been illegal? No. I had the right to reach out to them as long as I wasn't competing or offering the same services. But it just felt cleaner for me to just start my own thing and not go there. So I didn't. So you'll talk to a lot of like consultants, and maybe their first client was a former client, something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm not saying that, but it is unique that that just wasn't how I got my first client.
Yeah.
My first client was actually I was hitting LinkedIn, man. I was looking at people who had open job postings, and I was just saying, I noticed that you had this job posting out. I'm a consultant. Do you need help? And I probably did 100 of them or something. I mean, I did a lot. I was doing several, like a bunch a day. And then someone actually reached back out and was like, yeah, we can't fill this position. Would love to do some consulting work with you. And that was the very first client. And then I went in there and then pitched the engagement, and then they talked to me. They actually offered me a job. They were like, dude, you're like do you just want to come work? And I told them I was pretty committed to starting a business. That's really what I wanted to do. And they gave me a shot. They gave me a shot at a gig for about 2 months. And actually, by the way, they're still a client to us today, 7 years later. I bet they never expected that. But the initial gig was like a couple months of work, and then over delivered, like I said. So that was that first gig. And then the first couple after that either just fell out of the sky. Like a friend told me they needed something, or it was a referral from the same client that said someone else needs something. Something like that. Like probably the first half dozen or so were LinkedIn, actively working LinkedIn, asking around, doing a lot of networking or referrals. So like I said, super clunky, not systematic. It was just like doing good work and people were telling their friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it was slow too. Also, the first year, man, was like by far our slowest growth ever without that system. I mean, it was very, very clunky. Then what we did after that is we actually started developing a system. So, and our system was developing great content. It was basically a content-led marketing strategy. I think it's the formal term, but creating tons of content, giving it to the marketplace for free. And then sometimes they would choose to buy stuff from us. And that's not unlike what our strategy is right now. We're a lot better at it. We have like more strategy and we're looking at what we actually create today. But the bottom line is creating a ton of content. I was actually a blogger for like 10 years before it. Risk3sixty was actually a blog before it was a company. And what I blogged about was like security topics. And the reason I did that was because it was a way for me to teach myself. I'd like, I'll just write this down, put it in a blog. I kind of like to write, share it with my friends. So that content development stuff was pretty natural to me anyway. And then when we turned it to a company, we just kind of kept doing that stuff, producing white papers, doing videos, stuff like that, which no one watched, but it was at least collateral that someone could look at if they wanted to vet us.
Sure.
But now it's a little more active. Like we can, like if I do a webinar, I know about how many people is going to attend. Based on who attends, I have some predictability who might become a client one day just because of the numbers and having done it for 7 years. But it really is just giving more than we get. I know other businesses that have like huge partners that they rely on, or maybe an outbound sales strategy. But ours really has been pretty much pure content generation, giving free stuff to the marketplace. And a little bit of that will come back to us in the form of clients. And then also just a lot of clients telling their friends too. We do have a good bit of that, but they'll just say, hey, I know a good firm. You should work with these guys. But that's basically it. Content development that creates a marketing funnel for us, and then referrals. That's almost how we get all of our business.
Yeah. I don't think you can ever go wrong with content because it's just so evergreen. You know what I mean? Like you have one intention for it when you create it, but you didn't even realize that it has 3 or 4 other uses to the public, you know? It's just, I think it's like a magical thing, but
it's like farming, you know, a little bit. Like if I created 100 pieces of content, those pieces of content are still here today. Like people still download them right now that I developed 5 years ago. So that's kind of cool.
So I'm going to ask like a semi-selfish question, but was your LinkedIn message literally that simple to the job posting companies?
So I'm in Atlanta. So what I did, I still remember this distinctly because actually I think to myself that if I had more time, I would do more of that. Like right now, I'm like, I should try it again. So what I did is, so I'm in Atlanta. I felt that for me to be most attractive, this is pre-COVID and stuff too, that it needed to be in Atlanta. Like I needed to be able to get to the office and like show face. So I filtered like some cybersecurity jobs that I felt I was very qualified to do in the Atlanta area. And I looked for jobs that had been open for a while because I made the assumption they were having trouble closing them if they had been open for a while. And then I kind of just did a little bit of research to figure out who the hiring manager probably was. And then I was either sending an email or a LinkedIn message and saying, hey, I saw this job posting. It's been open for a while. I do consulting work as an individual. I could definitely help you if you need that help. Love to grab coffee. And I think I would say something like, even if you don't need the help, let's network because I might know someone who can help you, which I was being genuine. Like if they didn't want me, I mean, I'm sure I have a friend who might be interested. Yeah. And that got a few hits, you know, when they were like, yeah, sure. It's a small community. There's not very many cybersecurity folks anyway. Even if I don't want you for this, it might be good to know you. And then a couple folks said, yeah, they would do some contracting work with us. And that was enough to get this whole train going.
I mean, once you find something that sticks, it's like, it almost becomes addicting, or at least I've felt that way. You know what I mean? So shifting gears slightly, how do you think the rise of technology and data has impacted the way that companies approach marketing and advertising?
And all right, specific to marketing and advertising. So let's talk about maybe a little bit of context because this seems natural to me, but I don't know if everybody knows this. So if you look at like technology and specifically cybersecurity, because I think cybersecurity is impacting marketing, is that there's a few trends. So one trend is look at all the headlines: TikTok stealing your data, YouTube stealing your data, this app, that app. There's a lot of controversy out there, and people are very aware that like by installing something on your app or doing something, you could be being influenced. They might be taking your data. They're probably monetizing it. And it's created a certain amount of sensitivity to pretty much everyone. They're aware of it. So companies have a legitimate reputation risk if they do something weird and it goes public. The second phenomena is cybercrime. So all these same companies that are collecting all of our data, they're having data stolen from them. So cybercrime is expected to be like a $10.5 trillion industry by, I think, 2025 or 26 is what the latest says, which is bigger than the illegal drug trade, for context. Like when you start getting into trillions, it's hard to like even fathom what those numbers mean, but it's bigger than drugs. So it's lucrative. And what that means to me, so why that matters. So we know that companies are gathering more and more data. On top of that, we know that the criminal side of the house has more and more incentive to keep stealing that data. So for me and you, we just have a lack of trust. We're worried about our data. We're worried about companies stealing that data, how they're using it. Either it's being stolen from them or they're using it for nefarious purposes. So just a lot of lack of like a lot of lack of trust, bottom line. So
Mm-hmm.
how that comes into like the marketing and advertising space is, um, I mean, how do you market to a very skeptical marketplace? Like we're looking for native ads around every corner. We're skeptical of everything we see. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a marketer and you're kind of like wanting to harvest people's email address, well, no one wants to give you their email address anymore.
Right.
So it's impacting everything. So if you're a marketer or a business out there trying to do marketing, you have to think through, well, how do I preserve my reputation? Because I don't want them to think I'm stealing from them. If I want their contact information, how do I put enough value out there so they actually give it to me?
Mm-hmm.
If I want to use tools that are going to like monitor their screen or look at their clicks or whatever else, is that going to spook them and ruin my reputation again? Also, is that company that I'm outsourcing it to do, are they reputable? And what happens if their data gets stolen?
Yeah.
You have tools like AI, like Chat GPT, that are like writing copy. So like I think it's this whole phenomena, like trust. I guess that's the word, trust. How do you trust what you read? How do you do marketing and advertising while still maintaining the trust of your customer? And that's tough, man. That's a new motion. Like you're not calling people anymore and getting them to pick up. They're not just giving you their email addresses anymore. So how marketing pivots and survives in this environment is anyone's guess, but I think it's just trust. Like it's about brand trust.
Are there, again, shifting gears slightly, are there any thought leaders that you would recommend for fellow founders, or maybe authors' books that you've read that you'd recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, in our office, we have conference rooms named after three people, and they're some of the authors that helped inform our thinking in starting a business. So one of them is super famous in the entrepreneur community. That's Gino Wickman. He wrote a book called Traction, and he has this thing called the Entrepreneur's Operating System. So it's kind of like a pretty simple formula to how to run a business, and it's very practical. So if you're starting a business and you read it, it'll just be immediately relevant. So that one, I think, is a no-brainer. That's a beloved book in the community. The other one is almost a sister book to that one. It's called Scaling Up, written by a guy named Verne Harnish. Similar kind of dynamic on like how to run a business, how to scale a business. We took a lot of the core concepts from that. And then the last one I'll mention is a guy named Jack Stack wrote a book called Great Game of Business. And it's about like basically the core concept of that book is like how do you gamify business? You add measurables to everything, KPIs, performance indicators, and make those visible and kind of practice open book management to your team so everybody knows like how to be successful. And we've implemented a ton of stuff from those three books. But if you're starting a business, to me, like that's like core canon. Like you're going to read that stuff and it's just going to be immediately applicable to you and you're going to pick up what they're putting down. I think they're fantastic books.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. I've heard about, I think, Scaling Up. I haven't read it yet, but heard a lot about it. So maybe something's calling me. I don't know.
I recommend it.
So how can people learn more about Risk360 or yourself if they're interested?
Yeah. I mean, if you're a SaaS company, probably you're going to need a company like risk3sixty eventually. So what happens to most companies out there is they end up where they can't close a deal unless they have a security certification or they have enough concern that they want to build a security program because they just can't have a breach. So either they need that security certification or they need an assessment, they need a security partner. That's when they're probably going to be interested in Risk360 and the content that we produce. So I think before you even hire us or hire any company like us, number one is like go to our YouTube channel. We have hundreds of videos out there that try to basically make the complex simple. So if someone's telling you have to get a security certification or you're worried about a core concept of cybersecurity, go to the YouTube channel, spend 20 minutes watching a video, and it'll probably answer like a lot of the questions that you have. So that's what I would say. Website, go download some of our thought leadership or go to our YouTube channel and just see if you can get your question answered there and start engaging with our brand. And then if you ever need anything, you can reach out to us. So YouTube, just search Risk360, go to risk3sixty.com, download our content, all free.
That's amazing, man. Dude, so glad to have you on the show. I think you dropped a ton of knowledge bombs, as they say. And I'm really excited to watch 360 grow into what you guys become, because I feel like your success is definitely not over yet. So, and I think you've got something special over there. Really, really excited to watch that.
Thanks, Jacob, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks again for listening to another episode of Growth and Beyond. I hope you take something you learned from the conversation and apply it to your business today. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review wherever you're listening or watching and share it with a friend. And please be sure to tune in to next week's episode where I interview another top business leader and highlight ways to achieve growth for your business. See you then. If you'd like to level up your customer base and let us help you grow, email me at jacob@lowlandscollective.com.